Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dave Rand with Armbruster Goldsmith Delvac. I represent the developer NMS Properties. We're here to discuss the 501 Broadway project, mixed-use project, proposed at 5th and Broadway. With us here tonight are Hank Koenig and Troy Forrester from Koenig Eisenberg Architecture, as well as a number of representatives from NMS, the project applicant, led by Scott Walter, John Coletti, Patrick McCreevy, Ben Easton, and Taylor Gleeden. With that, I think I'll start off the program tonight, and we'll go to our first slide. The agenda and the format we're going to follow is I'm going to start off by describing kind of the basic elements of the project and orient you to the site and the location. Mr. Koenig is going to give an architectural presentation and go through the plans and the design concept, and then we'll have an opportunity for question and answer, which I'm guessing will be a brief discussion. So here's an aerial view of the area in general. You see Tonga Park called out here, and our site is over here at 5th and Broadway. Here's the expo station. The site is located very close to the expo station. Actually, we calculated it. It's about a 5-minute walk within a quarter mile of the station. Here's an aerial of the specific site. Just to orient you, we have the Archstone 5-story apartment building over here. This is the east and west sides of the Fred Siegel building. We have about a 76 feet, 6-story office building here, more mixed-use projects located over here. The project as proposed would include 65 rental housing units. You see the unit mix breakdown here. 13 of those units would be studios, 21 one-bedrooms, 24 two-bedrooms, and 7 three-bedroom units, larger family units, in response to a lot of the calls we've heard from policymakers to include larger family units in these downtown projects. The ground floor of the project would be activated by about 6,000 square feet of commercial uses. We anticipate that to be a combination of both restaurant and retail. And the project includes 154 parking stalls. We believe there is ample parking that will be provided in this project such that there will be no spillover parking impacts or any parking impacts at all. And to give you an indication, according to current code requirements, which many people think are outdated and require too much parking, only 136 spaces would be required. So we're providing parking in excess of code requirements. In February of last year, in response to a number of development agreement projects being proposed in the city council set some priority processing criteria. And there were 2 priority processing criteria that the council articulated for housing and mixed-use projects. And we're very pleased that this proposed project at 501 Broadway satisfies both requirements. One of those requirements, you'll see here, is a priority requirement for larger units. To meet that criteria, you can have no more than 20% studios, and you have to have at least 20% two-bedrooms and at least 10% three-bedrooms. We have exactly 20% studios, a large number of two-bedrooms at 37%, and 11% three-bedroom units, and the balance being one-bedrooms. This project also includes a very high set-aside of affordable housing units, so high that that also hits the council prescribed criteria. 10 of those units would be deed restricted for very low-income households. That's the lowest affordability level at 50% of the area median income. And additional 3 units, or 5% of the project, would be restricted for moderate income households, and those would all be 3-bedroom units. In total, the project sets aside 13 units, which equates to 20% of the overall project. The project is a Tier 3 project that would require a development agreement. And to back up a little bit, the LUCE sets out a construct of 3 tiers of development. The first tier being a ministerial approval, the second tier a development review permit with a limited amount of community benefits, and the third tier project would allow for greater development flexibility with enhanced community benefits. The LUCE defers to the future downtown specific plan to set the actual development standards for the downtown. However, the staff has proposed, and the council and planning commission are currently in the process of considering some draft standards for this area, which is called the Core Neighborhood Transition Sub-Area. And this project is fully compliant with those proposed standards. The proposed standards would be 76 feet in height, Our building is 76 feet. It happens to be 6 stories, and a maximum FAR of 3.5 with housing units. Our FAR is 3.43. You get there by taking the total project square footage, which is 51,480 square feet, and dividing it by the size of the lot, 15,000 square feet. So again, 100% consistent with the proposed development standards. The project also provides a robust package of community benefits, the key being additional affordable housing units. I mentioned the 20% total units. 7 of those affordable units would be considered community benefits, above and beyond the 6 units required by the city's affordable housing production program. In addition, the project at the outset would strive for a high level of sustainability, looking to achieve an equivalency of the LEED Gold Standard rating by the U.S. Building Council. In addition, the architects have taken great pains to develop a project that provides a good deal of open space, that includes enhanced sidewalk areas fully consistent with the draft downtown specific plan. This would allow for an 18-foot enlarged sidewalk on Broadway and 15-foot sidewalk along 5th Street. We've also allowed for enhanced sidewalk lighting to ensure a safe pedestrian realm around the project site. The project would be subject, as part of the development agreement, to a strict transportation demand management program with the goal of reducing vehicular trips resulting from the project. I'll go through a couple of key components of that. One is unbundled parking. So the parking spaces and the actual rental units would be severed such that individual residents can offer to opt out of a parking space, and they would receive a transit pass instead. The project will be required to target its marketing of the rental units specifically to downtown employees. The idea being, to the extent downtown employees can be captured into the project to live there, we go a long way towards reducing the jobs housing imbalance and also taking cars off the road. The project is going to volunteer a 2.0, what they call average vehicle ridership target, or AVR target, for the commercial component. That essentially requires the commercial tenants, their employees, to carpool, vanpool, find alternative means of getting to work. And the strict standard will essentially equate to 1 car for every 2 employees of the commercial component of the project. The project, one of the exciting features of the project, also includes enhanced bicycle parking and amenities. 220 total bicycle spaces will be provided, over 2 spaces per residential unit, including short-term visitor spaces, long-term commercial spaces, and 70 unassigned spaces. We'll have a bicycle repair station, on-site showers, changing rooms, a designated area for a future citywide bike sharing program, and a number of other amenities to ensure that this project attracts people who ride bicycles and to make sure it's bicycle friendly. I'm now going to walk you around the downtown and give you a sense of some of the other development proposed in the area and give you a sense of what those projects look like or will look like to the extent they haven't been constructed in terms of height and FAR and massing. And I think you will see by the end of it that the proposed project at 76 feet and 3-point FAR is very consistent and in keeping with development in the surrounding area. So the first site I'll highlight is right here at 501 Broadway. This is 525, we're 501 Broadway, 525 Broadway, which is here, which is under construction right now. That has an FAR of 3.7, 125 units, and 60 feet in height, 5 stories. There are 2 projects right at 7th and Arizona, both at 3.0 FAR and 50 feet. Here's one at 702, and the next one at 1317 7th Street, which is a little larger at 3.5 FAR, again 50 feet. There's a project approved at 401 Broadway that would include a massing of 3.7 FAR, 56 feet, 3.7 FAR. Here you have a project on 5th Street with 3.5 FAR again, 74 feet and 6 stories for this particular project. 501 Colorado is a proposed project, 3.5 FAR, 75 feet, 6 stories. 1415 5th Street, 3.5 FAR, 60 units and 74 feet in height, right here, within a stone's throw from our site. And an approved project that will be under construction shortly at 1320 2nd Street with an FAR of 3.1 and 45 feet in height, subject to currently a more restrictive height limit down on that part of 2nd Street. This is the Denny Site that's also a pending project in the queue at 1560 Lincoln. 2.75 FAR, 60 feet in height, 5 stories. Going further down on Lincoln, this is the Norm site at 1601 Lincoln with 100 units, 57 feet, 5 stories. And here's the aerial of the site, to give you a sense of the area I just walked you through. All those projects are more or less within this vicinity. So now I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Hank Koenig, the architect of the project, who will give you an overview of the design and the architecture.
Great, thank you, Dave. So here's a couple of photos of the site. It's currently performance bicycles, one-story building, and the building that, where's that thing going there? This thing. And this building is no longer there. That's the construction site of one of the projects that Dave mentioned, 525 Broadway. So here's a couple of shots. The Archstone building. This is a photo montage of that proposed project that's under construction. Here's our site. And then looking down 5th Street, this is our site is in here. There's a couple of projects being proposed. And the site across here is the Fred Siegel site, which is identified by the city as an opportunity site. And across the street on 5th Street, this is Broadway, Santa Monica's down this end. This is kind of the type of housing that we see being built. Kind of presents a little bit of a street wall. I think myself, one of the nicest parts of this is the little space in between that building that gives access to light and air. And that's something that we wanted to play up on. So this is a rendering of the project from the corner. And so you'll see we've pulled the building back from the corner up on the top floors so that you can actually see into the courtyard of the building. Our retail, however, we really wanted to acknowledge the corner. So we've created a patio out the front, but the podium above over here actually extends out to the corner. So some of this patio is then provided with shade. We're on the north side of that corner, and so this is getting a lot of sun. So that'll help with shading of the glazing. There's enough room for people to have umbrellas for shading outside diners. So we really did want to emphasise this as a commercial corner, and we wanted to invite people from the street level into that courtyard. And then again, here's that rendering of 525 Broadway under construction. So this is a little view from above of that sort of diagram. So we have set back the building on the ground floor for those wider sidewalks, created dining patio right on the corner, and here is that podium deck. And then the building rises above, and you'll notice it sort of cantilevers out over that deck in that area. These may achieve some views of the ocean. There'll be views down 5th Street. 5th Street's got those beautiful ficus trees, so that'll be a handsome view for folks. But really importantly, the idea of driving up and down the street really lets people sort of see into the project, if you will. So that's kind of the diagram that we said. Street life, we have our housing component, the idea of the lawn or the garden space that's a common space for everybody. Now, when we look at the setbacks that you normally have to apply for cities, this building complies with those setback requirements. You'll see that you get a small space at the bottom and then you have this setback which could be used for a garden terrace. These are very awkward spaces to use because they're located over a unit. So it's very hard to plant trees. It's very hard to get the acoustic separation. It's very hard to get access. They tend not to be used. So what we've done in here is said, well, if we just slide that up and create the open space down the bottom, it's on the concrete podium, we can landscape it. People can look down on it. It's not an exclusive terrace for a particular unit, but it's something that can be shared by everybody. By pushing this up, and that usually the intent of these sort of things is to get more sunlight in, but since we're on the north side of the site, the only people that we're affecting is our own project. Because the shade that we would get in here would be into this unit. It would only affect the upper units and they get all the light in the world. We're actually giving more benefit to the units that are down at the bottom of the light well, if you will, in here because they're not blocked by these units. So this is a little request that we're going to ask for the city is to do an adjustment of this because particular to this site because it is on the north side of the of that corner. Okay. Okay, so this is a view. You can see this is the garden space that we're talking about having in here. And we're even extending some walkways here a little bit wider, so they also can be outside open space. To further enhance that sort of sense of connection, as I mentioned, we have some cantilevered pieces of building, and the thought here was we may want to, we're looking at doing those in a reflective surface. So you actually, when you look up, oh, wrong one. Where'd that picture go? Troy. So when you look up, we have a photo showing this, you'd see reflections of that garden. The distinctive shape in here is sort of a reflection to what they call Gooey Architecture, which is this stuff, which is kind of, Norms is a little bit of an example of that. There used to be ships in Westwood that got demolished that had that sort of distinctive roof line. Johnny's on Fairfax and Wilshire, which is closed. So it's sort of saying, well, you know, there was this great distinctive architecture that had diners in it, and we'd love to see that corner be a diner. We'd like a high ceiling and to really sort of invite people in and have something distinctive. So that's where that form's coming from. And then above, you get this wonderful rolling landscape shape. And if you've ever, well, you go to a park, where do people lie? They lie on the sloping lawn, not on the flat lawn. And so the idea is we have some sloping lawn up there. Maybe it's a place where people can come down, sunbathe, and be a beautiful spot to do that. So that would be up in this area. This would be a very nice spot to sit. Maybe there's a fire pit that has a view of the ocean. Oh, here's the photo of the sort of idea of the reflective roof, and it works both ways, of course. It means that somebody lying there sunbathing can look up the ceiling and see what's happening in the street, and vice versa. We just have to make sure there's no topless sunbathing, I guess. So here's a floor plan, ground floor plan. We're really focusing the commercial, the restaurant, retail on Broadway. That's a more commercial street than Fifth Street. We saw the photo of Fifth Street. It's really sort of feeling more residential. So we've located the residential entry here. Wider sidewalks, both sides, bike racks for short-term bike parking, for bike sharing program if the city gets one, and if this is an appropriate location. Parking comes in off the alley as loading and all that sort of stuff. Then we go up to that podium level, and this is the sort of garden area we have where we can have lawns, we can have seating patios, we can have a bosque of trees in this area, because this is all on that concrete podium. And then it extends back into the units. And then the units wrap around. The units, in addition to this fantastic common space, which we don't see a lot of, will have balconies. Most of them are around the 50 square foot mark, some of them are a bit smaller, and we may have to do a trade for what do you call private to common. I mentioned a walkway that was wider, so that could be a little seating area up there. Again, you're up high, you might have a great view of the ocean. You might just want to get out of your unit here and sit out there and enjoy the weather and, you know, meet your neighbours. What a concept. So it just wraps around. You'll see also in here little angled pieces in here that provide articulations that also allow us to have views out and yet have privacy from buildings across the street. Roof plan in here where we don't have a roof terrace because we have such a beautiful podium level garden. We want to maximise the opportunity for putting photovoltaic panels or solar water heaters, and we also have some decks carved out of the sixth floor units, which will provide more articulation and more outside space. Parking, we have an excess of parking. We're going to unbundle the parking. If the parking's not needed, the unbundling allows them to utilise it for other uses. We know there are some folks who think there's a parking shortage in downtown, some think there isn't, but we have an opportunity here to, if there is a shortage, people can park in this building. Here's a cross-section through the building, Broadway, 4 levels of parking. Here's our retail. We have about a 20-foot floor-to-floor in this ground floor. I think the downtown specific plan is asking for 18, and we cranked it up a little bit more because we really want to have a real strong connection indoor-outdoor. And then we have the housing above, and these are the top units have mezzanines, so they have a little deck up the top in here that provides further articulation from the street. And some of these are decks up the top. The wall runs around, but the roof is actually open, so you can see up to the sky. Residential entry. This is hopefully it's a great restaurant located here. I'm sure it will be. It's such a great location. And then these are where the cut-off. So this is set back quite a ways from this elevation. I mentioned those angled walls. You can see in these things, you can see the shadows that are occurring from those bits. It's inspired by a hotel in Barcelona that has these are slightly curved, ours are going to be straight, but they angle out. We have sometimes glass in them along that angle, but it allows us to funnel the view in the right direction and maintain privacy. This is looking from Broadway. This is our retail restaurant, and here's that distinctive shaped podium where we want to bring the landscaping, not just in the courtyard, but wrap it around the buildings. And then here's one of those cantilevers, another one over here. And this is the building that's being built adjacent. A cross section through there, showing that courtyard with the sort of mounded, it's a bit like Tongva Park, I guess, you know, with these mounds in there. So it's just not a flat landscape. And then the alley view, parking entrance, trash loading, we've kept the same aesthetic running around the back. And then looking north, this is the one-storey adjacent building. Who knows how long that's going to stay that way. But we've set these glass back about 10 feet, I believe it is, Troy, right? With some balconies, and then introducing some vertical landscape trellises. So we can have some vines growing up there that will soften it and provide some privacy between the units and their patios. So here it is, the building's placed into those, looking from Broadway, from 5th Street. These are the ones across the street. So we really want to get that sort of idea of being able to look into that courtyard. And there's our project. And this is a little diagram, just we are here. This is our first community meeting. We have a number of steps. ARB float up, that's an opportunity for public input. Planning Commission float up, again. Planning Commission hearing, again we have opportunity for public input. City Council hearing. At that point, that's where a determination is made on the development agreement. And then we go to Architectural Review Board again for final sign-off. And again, there's an opportunity for public input. So there's a number of times that the public can speak, and we welcome you to do so. And of course, you have an opportunity now. So thank you.
We've won over the developer, the architect's wife, and we won over the competitive developer.
Do we have any questions or comments? Does anyone want a cookie?
What is the next meeting on this project? Has it been scheduled?
No, the next... Oh, that's... Paul, the next meeting, the ARB float-up, has not been scheduled yet, has it? Yeah, it has. It has, okay. Can I hand the microphone to someone more knowledgeable than me?
August 15th. Yeah, so the next step of the public process is a float-up hearing before the Architectural Review Board, where they'll make some preliminary comments on design and architecture, and that will occur on August 16th. That's the only hearing that has been scheduled, and as Hank mentioned, from there we'll go to the Planning Commission float-up. Any other comments?
And that will be held at City Hall?
Correct. Oh, yeah. City Hall council chambers.
And they don't have cookies?
They don't. Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you very much for coming out tonight.